Hi, welcome to Talking Books and Stuff, the program that talks all about books and writing and stuff. Here's your host, Dennis Rimmer.
Hi there again, Dennis Rimmer here with Talking Books and Writing and Stuff, and we're in Radisson, Saskatchewan, where it's a bit rainy, not too good for this time of year, but that's okay. And with us on the line from Toronto, Ontario, John Mighton. We're talking about all things being equal, why math is the key to a better world. Hello, sir. How's things in Toronto for you these days?
Well, apart from the crisis, things are pretty good. It's a beautiful day here.
So we're talking about your book, All Things Being Equal, and you were born in Hamilton, Ontario. So can you explain to us what Oski Wee Wee actually means?
No, I can't. I mean, I remember it's, I think the tiger cat called, but I have no idea where it came from.
Nope, neither do I, and I don't think anyone else does either, but
Probably not.
It's still out there. And you're also in the June 2020 issue of Reader's Digest with an article about why we're all so much smarter than we know, and anyone can learn anything. So when I was growing up, and there was basically two sets of students in my mind. There were the ones, such as myself, were a bit better in English and history, that kind of thing, than we were in math and science. And then there were the other kids who were better in math and science than English and history, like they could barely spell. And then a few exceptions, like my brother, who were just whizzes at everything. But your premise is that with a little bit of a tweak, maybe a bit more than a tweak, in the way things are taught, we can all be a whole lot smarter than we think?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at, for instance, in the 1800s, our life expectancy was about 40 years. And that wasn't because we could only live 4 years on average. It's because we didn't know things like that we could reduce disease by washing our hands and so on. And there's been various medicines and innovations developed. And I think the same thing could happen in education. We all have far more potential intellectually than we're seeing, but we're living in this illusion that says, we can only live 4 years. We're living in an equivalent illusion about our intellectual capacity.
So if we're taught things a bit different, then perhaps we can all do better, especially in math. Why do you think math is the key to a better world?
Well, for a number of reasons. There's research in cognitive science right from early childhood development right up to brain scans of mathematicians that suggests that, when mathematicians do deep problem solving, they're still only using a very primitive part of the brain that has the same sense of space and number that kindergarten kids do. And logicians proved this 100 years ago that all math can be reduced to very simple concepts or steps. And so most people aren't aware of that, even sometimes people who are teaching it. So that's one reason math is so important. If you want to equalize the classroom and close the academic gap between kids and give everyone a fair chance in life, math is the subject to do it, and our research has suggested that also. But also, people don't realize how important math is. So there's been 3 really large longitudinal studies that suggest that for young kids, math is actually a stronger predictor of success at school than even kids' reading skills, or their social emotional skills. Math is a very, very strong predictor. It also predicts your financial health, your physical health, all kinds of things. And I think most people aren't aware of that. They think math is something you could just, I'm not a math person, so it doesn't really matter if everyone learns math.
Yeah, exactly. That's sort of the way it was when I was growing up. And when I think back, I'm a bit older than you. It was like you get this one person who's supposed to be able to teach English and math and social studies and science and physical education, and all in front of a classroom of 33 or 34 grade 5 kids. And I don't know how they were expected to make anybody successful, let alone help us all improve in math skills.
Yeah, exactly. And so, Jump Math is a charity, and so and teachers are really my heroes. Teachers are, I think parents are recognizing now with their kids at home what an important role teachers play. But many teachers don't have time to develop math programs. They don't have time to select good materials off the internet. If they don't have a good program, they sometimes struggle to teach it, and especially if the programs they're using aren't based on rigorous studies and evidence. And there's lots of research now in cognitive science that suggests that kids need more scaffolding. They need challenges broken into more manageable steps. They need more continuous assessment and feedback. They need more practice. And we've shown in studies, for instance, we were involved in a randomized controlled trial where the JUMP students made significantly more progress in the second year of the study in problem solving. But we didn't approach problem solving in a traditional way where you let kids flounder or find their level. We gave them a lot of guidance, and in the end, they became better problem solvers.
And so
teachers really need more support, both evidence-based resources and really good professional development to help them reach all of their students in math.
And I'm remembering in the early chapters of All Things Being Equal by our guest, John Mighton, you have a class of grade 5 kids, and their math scores were not that good, to say the least. The highest was like a 79 percentile, lowest was 9%, and then a year later, after they sort of did your methods, everyone's skills shot up, and the lowest person on that scale even bypassed some of the kids that were ahead of that person. So what is the secret then to teaching the kind of skills that will make us all better in math?
Yeah, so that case study you referred to, which was reported in the New York Times, that was in grade 5, and people think, well, that's pretty late to intervene. And the data showed there was about a 3 grade level difference between the top and bottom kids. And a year later, as you mentioned, the weaker kids were outperforming what the stronger kids did. And a year later, they all wrote the Pythagoras math competition, and all but 3 got awards of distinction. So that's the kind of potential that's in children, even as late as grade 5. And there are 2 things I think that teachers need to do to elicit that potential. So one is that teacher was really good at making the kids feel they were all working on roughly the same things, or if they had gaps, they'd be filled very quickly. She made them feel equal, and then their brains could work. Because if you think you're in the inferior group, kids compare themselves very early as grade 1. Once you think you're in the inferior group, you have no motivation to really work or remember or engage. And so it becomes a vicious cycle because then you fall further behind. The other thing is that teacher really used, even though she let the kids do the thinking, she was constantly asking questions, challenging them to figure things out. Those questions were very carefully structured so that there was, in the beginning of the year, very small variations between each question, so the kids weren't having to deal with too many new concepts at once. And those 2 things together are extraordinarily powerful when you keep kids in a zone where their brains can work efficiently from a cognitive point of view, but also from an emotional point of view, because they're engaged and they love meeting challenges that are manageable for them.
And I don't want to make it sound simplistic, but it seems to me that it was more like a team effort and almost like a game. It's like, okay, here's today's problem, and I'll make it very basic. 2 + 2 is... What do you guys think is the answer, instead of putting it on a piece of paper as a test and making them perform under pressure? Is that kind of the idea?
Exactly. In our teacher's guide lessons, we show teachers how they can lead through questions. So they can, they can help all kids make discoveries and make connections, but using questions.
I feel like
right. Is that sort of like the Aristotle method or Socrates?
Yes, or that's right, the Socratic method, that kids have the potential to discover a lot on their own and to figure things out. That they need to be, the questions have to be really well structured, and the teacher has to be constantly assessing and making sure that everybody understands and can move on. Sorry, I think I got cut off there.
Yeah.
Can you hear me okay?
Now it's fine, and I could just clip this out. So, yeah, we were talking about instead of...
Should I answer that again?
Yes, please. It was about...
Okay, could you ask the question again?
Yeah, it's more of making it almost a game, a teamwork thing, that rather than just making kids such as myself who had to sit in a class and try to figure out that 395 plus 258, and those numbers just swam in front of my brain and I couldn't figure it out at all, and so I gave up. I never learned to add until I was going to college and took a statistics course, and the teacher had us break things down into sets of 10. Ever since then, I haven't had a problem adding things, but no one ever taught me that. We were just forced into doing things and moving up one grade at a time, and then by the time you get to high school for algebra, it's like, who cares? Why do I care that 2x minus 3y equals some strange figure that'll never have anything to do with my real life? So your point is that you're changing all of that right from the beginning.
Yeah, and your story really points to an important fact about the brain. I mean, it's not like you suddenly got a different brain in university. You had the same brain, but suddenly you could understand it even at a higher level because your teacher broke things down for you. And breaking things down doesn't have to be rote. So you were right. A jump lesson should be like a game. If you look at our teacher's guide lessons, everything is a question, and the kids are on the edge of their seat figuring out the question. The teacher's not doing the thinking. The kids are doing the thinking, and leading by Socratic questions. And as the kids get stronger and develop deeper conceptual foundations, the teacher can stretch them more and let them struggle more. But they need to be kept in a zone where they can work productively. And so that's the secret why that teacher was able to do so well, why the jump students in the randomized controlled trial made more progress. There's an optimal zone for learning, and for novice learners, it's very tight. You can't handle too many new things at once. And as you get stronger and stronger, you can struggle more and work more independently.
And we're with John Mighton today. Latest book from his is All Things Being Equal, his latest book, Why Math is the Key to a Better World. And John is an officer of the Order of Canada. He's an award-winning playwright as well, 2 Governor General Literary Awards for drama. Is there anything you can't do?
Well, yeah, lots of things. I wish I could do music. I just feel like there's never enough lifetimes to do everything. And when I was younger, there was almost nothing I could do. I almost failed calculus at university. I got the lowest mark in my creative writing class. And I'm so passionate about this because I only learned in my early 20s that you could develop skills or talent through practice, through really rigorous guided practice. Cognitive scientists now call it deliberate practice, where you push yourself a little outside your comfort zone, often with the help of a coach or expert, and then you practice until you develop, the capacities to work at that level. Often it's great to be guided. I looked at great writers. I constantly studied writers and tried to write imitations. So I was lucky to discover in my 20s that I could develop at least some talents for things that I thought I couldn't do. But I always feel like I wish from an early age I'd been encouraged in music, for instance, or other subjects, because I think I'm missing a lot of things in life.
And it's like you say in the article in the June issue of Reader's Digest of 2020, right up at the first paragraph, like you just said, I'm a mathematician, but I didn't show much aptitude for math until I was 30. And so,
that's right.
Exactly, just like you said. So somewhere along the line, you were, are you saying you were guided in a certain way, just a bit better than you were in earlier years?
Well, I was really lucky. I came across, when I was about 20, a book of letters by the poet Sylvia Plath, Letters to Her Mother. And it was clear that she taught herself to write by sheer determination. So she would memorize poems. She memorized the thesaurus, literally. She read everything she could about the structure of poetry. And she also wrote imitations of other poets. And her early work was very derivative, but gradually as she developed her voice, she was able to incorporate her own experiences into her poems because she had all that structural knowledge. And that was a revelation to me. And so I started imitating her poems, other poets, and then was gradually led into theater. And when I was about 30, I thought maybe I could relearn math again, and eventually went back to school for math.
And you have a Ph.D. in math, a master's degree in philosophy, and you're the founder, John Mighton, of Jump Math. So what is Jump Math?
So Jump Math is a charity, and we produce resources for students and also teachers' guides for teachers and professional development. So we now work in about 6% of Canadian students are now using Jump. We're also in several other countries. And for the first time, we've started forming partnerships with school boards and universities working together to do research. So that's very exciting. We've been involved in a project called Math Minds in Calgary with the University of Calgary, where the researchers have been embedded in classrooms, keeping track of the students and showing really strong progress in problem solving, but also isolating what the best teachers are doing, how the teachers are who are getting great results are helping all of their students come along. So we're involved in a number of really exciting partnerships like that. Math Minds being one of those well-developed partnerships.
And back to the original point about math, the key to a better world, it's because our brains are plastic, neuroplasticity. We can learn things that we didn't think we could learn. We're sort of cutting ourselves short in the terms of potential. And also it seems like there's some kind of movement in a lot of places to, let's say, defund public schools in a way. So you're kind of fighting two battles at the same time here.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I think that teachers have suffered a lot because they haven't had access to evidence-based materials, which I mean materials that have been tested in randomized controlled trials or developed by cognitive scientists or people who really understand how the brain works. And so teachers get a bad rap when they're doing everything they can to help their students. And with the COVID crisis, people are realizing how important teachers are. Kids do not like learning at home generally. The studies are showing they're not learning efficiently at home. They're not necessarily learning efficiently online. So we need to get kids back in schools, fund schools properly, and empower teachers. Teachers shouldn't have to use materials that haven't been vetted or tested, and teachers should have more capacity and authority to choose materials and test them and share the results with other teachers. We would see a revolution in education if that happened, because teachers are perfectly capable of helping all their students. They just need the right resources and support.
And again, back to math for a minute. I had a friend when I lived in Bellingham, Washington, who went to Georgia Tech. He was a rambling wreck from Georgia Tech, engineer, and he said that one class they worked just for fun. They figured out that 2 + 2 could equal 5. Is there actually a way that 2 + 2 can equal 5?
Not that I know of.
And he didn't explain it to me, and I didn't argue with him, but I said to myself, oh, you guys, you college kids, you're just doing pranks. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that could happen. Although there are some strange and wonderful results in the foundation of math, in logic and so on, but nothing that bizarre.
No, that is bizarre. Another thing about algebra, for me personally, I didn't understand why I had to care what 2x + 3y was until I saw something once that had the x's and y's were jeans and shirts or something like that. So if you have two of jeans and 3 of shirts, then what have you got and what does it cost? And it was made a lot more sense to me then. It still doesn't really make sense, but so it was like it put.
Yeah, we've done videos and studies with kids in grade 4. So you put a bag on a table and some blocks, and then you put some blocks on another table, and you say there's the same number of blocks on each table. How many are hidden in the bag? And they can tell you how many are in the bag because they know there's the same amount on each table. And then you put 2 bags down and say there's the same amount in each bag and so on. And gradually you move to drawing boxes for the bag and +2 for the blocks. And then eventually you replace the blocks with X's. And the kids understand what X means. It's just that missing number.
Yeah.
So as early as grade 3 or 4, you can have kids literally cheering to do algebra because they're so excited at solving these little puzzles. And then you can show them the power of it, because you can, if you know how to use the X to stand for shirts and the Y to stand for pants, you can write equations that allow you to solve things you just can't do in your head. And so very quickly, within a matter of days, kids can see the power of algebra, and all kids can be engaged in it.
And you're talking about, we're talking actually with John Mighton, author of All Things Being Equal, Why Math is the Key to a Better World, also the founder of Jump Math. You've got a story in your book where either it was yourself or another teacher had to break up a fight and said to the kids, if you don't stop fighting, I'm paraphrasing, if you don't stop fighting, I won't let you do your extra problems. And the kid would, okay, I'll behave now because I want to do those problems. I never wanted to do extra math problems in my life.
Yeah, well, that's because of two reasons. And I was the one who broke up the fight.
Right.
It's for two reasons. You never wanted to do math, probably because it didn't make much sense to you. And also because you weren't part of a group where everybody loved math. And so that's why it's so important to equalize the classroom, because kids feed off each other. So that kid had experienced. And also, one of our deepest motivators as humans is a sense of mastery and purpose. And so that kid, before he got in this fight, had experienced this sense of mastery of constantly solving or meeting challenges that looked really hard, because math is supposed to be hard. So he'd experienced that, and he experienced the excitement of all the other kids. So he loved getting bonus questions. And you know, I've even taught a behavioral class in London with kids I thought were really unteachable in a very violent school. And on the third lesson, when we came in, the kids cheered. That's the great tragedy for me. Math is the equalizer. People use math to differentiate people. But, you know, we've seen in case studies and more rigorous studies that you can close the gap very quickly in math. And once kids start being able to focus in math, and follow chains of inference and come up with explanations for things, those talents and those capacities transfer to other subjects and just to their behavior in general. So, you know, I've taught grade 6 behavioral class. I would find it very hard to get them reading at the same level, because reading is so complicated. But I was able to give them the basic skills they needed for that lesson, which was on binary codes, and they were all able to participate at the same level. That's the magic of math, if you know how to reduce it to the foundational concepts and skills.
The magic of math. And it brings to mind a chat I had earlier on the podcast with some students from a high school in Saskatoon. And they meet this group every day in the mornings, or maybe one, I can't remember. Anyway, they work on writing, and they have a newspaper column once a week that's published, and these kids are all in grade 9, and their writing is our level, better than what I've done, and I think, but it's because it's a group thing, like you're saying, and they're not competing, and they learn the skills, and they bounce ideas back and forth, and the class seems to be very nice. And I said to the teacher, I don't suppose you have any problem with kids not showing up. And he said, no, they always show up. Everybody shows up all the time. Nobody's ever late. No, and these are grades 9, so you kind of think, oh, they're going to be lazy, they're going to be rebellious. And right. He said, no, we have a great time. And so you're saying the same kind of concept with math, only we'll have even better results.
Yeah, I mean, grade 9 is very hard. So it's a very hard age for kids. So what that teacher is doing is a real miracle, especially in a subject like writing, which is much more complex than math. So that just shows the impact of the teacher, that even against all odds, with a very difficult subject, with kids who are typically difficult, you can have a class where everybody wants to show up and do the work. Now, it's even easier in math, especially the younger you get kids. That's just a stunning claim for most people, because they can't believe that math could be fun for kids or manageable for kids. And it's very hard to convince people sometimes that this is possible, and I think that's our greatest struggle in Jump. A lot of people think if kids aren't all struggling too much, if they're not working at all different levels, it's not conceptual. But that's just nonsense. The cognitive science has shown that that everyone can develop concepts if they're guided in the right way, and if the lessons are scaffolded well and built well, then everyone can move at roughly the same pace in math.
We're talking with John Mighton, founder of Jump Math, latest book, All Things Being Equal, Why Math is the Key to a Better World. What's next for you?
Well, most of my time I spend working for Jump, and we've got very exciting partnerships with universities, research partnerships to develop better professional development. We're working with some firms like IBM who have given us phenomenal support, starting with Microsoft now, and we're hoping to build a partnership with the YMCA. We're really excited about some of the potential partnerships we're developing.
Sounds super. Thank you very much for your time today, and good luck from here on out.
Okay, thank you so much, and thanks for the work you're doing.
Thank you for visiting with us today. This is Talking Books and Stuff with Dennis Rimmer. Contact him at dennis@talkingbooks.tk. Thank you, and may all the good news be yours. Oh, and don't forget to check out his book, The Great Canadian Notebook, available across Canada and at amazon.ca.